and the techno beat goes on. Just this week, I read this article in Motherboard, which has a lot of good stuff, but the poem that passed the Turing test. Now, the Turing test, as Dale and I were discussing, is the one that, do you think that the person communicating with you, this is how it's popularly interpreted, do you think that the communication you are currently receiving comes from a human being? If so, a computer has become intelligent. That's how people interpret this test. So somebody created a kind of poetry generating program, and one of them was accepted to an undergraduate student journal. And apparently this proves that in somebody's mind that computers are now sentient beings. It did have a nice line in it. You say, what is the time waiting for its spring? I tell you, it is waiting for your branch that flows, because you are a sweet-smelling diamond architecture that does not know why it grows. Not a bad undergraduate poetry line, but the fact that a poem, which can that a program, rather, which generates hundreds of programs, can get one, and by the way, they submitted quite a few, only this one was accepted, that looks like a written by a human, that proves nothing. Why are we still trying to convince each other of the idea that computers have intelligence when they generate occasionally a string of words that looks like human communication? It's like the old joke about the million monkeys and a million typewriters. One of them will type out the complete works of Shakespeare, just statistically, but that does not mean that the monkey is Shakespeare. Now, speaking of robotic monkeys, another article from newscientist.com claims, the headline reads, "Meet the robot with a self. Video, humanoid robot has a sense of self." Now, again, I mean, I'm almost rendered speechless by the notion that someone could think that this robot has a self. Why? Because they've noticed that animals and human beings above a certain level of cognitive ability, for example, look at a mirror, recognize yourself, have what they call proprioception, meaning we know our place in space and so on. Yes, you can create, yes, for the millionth time, you can create programs which simulate these responses, which is what the creators of this computer driven machine have done. Now, good for them. I mean, it's called the iCub. As I've always said, artificial intelligence sometimes makes people more smart as programmers, even though it doesn't exist as a thing, certainly not at this point in history. So the notion that, as the writer of this article says, William James, founder of modern psychology, suggested that the self can be divided into an I and me. Please, these guys built the machine with chips in it and programs in it that allow it to simulate the behavior of a creature which is aware of its own existence. I guarantee you, I don't need to be a philosophical genius nor a computer genius. This robot is not aware of its own position in space any more than an artificial toy dog from the 1950s, which wags its tail, is actually happy to see you. So can we get away from that? I'm very interested in technology. I'm excited about a lot of technology breakthroughs. We report a lot of technology breakthroughs on this program because they're important, because they're smart, or just because they're cool. Like with the bionic ants we talked about in the news segment. They're just cool. I don't know if they mean anything or if they'll ever be put in use, but sure, we appreciate technology. Let's just not make it an ideology or something that blinds us from the very real daily living problems which torment us every day and which we need to solve. Problems like the ones Maya Rockamore and I discussed, the problems of minority communities and their economic challenges. Let's not let it blind us from what's being done to whistleblowers like John Kiriakou. Let's not let it blind us to the ways that technology is also invading our spaces, our lives, and even our thoughts. Let's not be blind at all. I hope you'll join us next week. I am Richard RJ Eskow, and this is The Zero Hour.